So hello, everyone. Good afternoon, and welcome to our Intercluster Spain, Germany. Thank you very much for being here. And I'll just introduce you to our cluster manager, Ana San Salvador, who is going to explain a little bit about the cluster and about the Spanish markets. Julia Steger, she's the COO of Education Germany, and she'll do the same. She'll explain the German market and the education. And then we'll have two testimonies on each market. Caro Aschmeyer from Deutschfasch and Jordi Fernandez from Techman Books. So Anna, whenever you are ready, you can start. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here. I will share the presentation just a sec. Can you see the screen?
Yes, we can. Yes, everything's okay.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to introduce a bit of the cluster and an overview of the educational system in Spain. Okay, so the cluster gathers the providers of educational technology and institutions that collaborate together to support the growth of the edtech market and promote an equitable, innovative, and advanced educational ecosystem. The cluster was created in 2013 and is integrated nowadays with by 60 companies working on the collaboration between stakeholders of the educational ecosystem and establishing a joint framework that fosters businesses' competitiveness and the service of educational innovation. As benefits of being a member in the cluster, we promote sessions with the educational institutions to share challenges and bring trends and innovations from the edtech sector and members. In this way, we promote the collaborative processes between partners, educational institutions, and public administration of the sector to identify challenges and ignite innovation projects. Also, we foster networking sessions between members to share and promote collaboration. And we especially support for startups promoting business opportunities, its growth for startups, and internationalization as the intercluster we are doing today to facilitate knowledge and access to new markets and internationalization processes. One thing that I would like to share with you is the edtech Congress Barcelona that we are organizing for the 27th and 28th April 22. And this Congress is addressed to headmasters of the Spanish educational institutions, and we will offer 2 full days of content, space for learning, sharing experiences, debate, and get to know the trends of the edtech market and innovations, right? And as a cluster, we have companies and institutions from technology providers, learning management systems, educational resources, research and consultancy, and universities and school associations. You can see here an overview of the technology members that are in the cluster nowadays, the learning management systems and platforms, the educational resources companies, research and consultancy, and universities and school associations. We have a board members represented by 10 people of CEOs and presidents of some of the cluster entities. And just going through an overview of the educational system in Spain, focusing on K-12, we have in 2021, these are figures of 2021, we have 28,624 schools and 8.2 million students. Most of the schools in Spain are public schools, as you see, 67. Schools are public, 25% are government-dependent private schools, and 7% are private schools. And the amount of students is more or less the same. Students in non-university education are organized in these percentages. In early childhood education, about 20%, primary education 34%, compulsory secondary education almost 25%, baccalaureate is 8%, and vocational training it's 12%. In Spain, Spain has had 8 different laws in the democracy history in the past 45 years. Sorry, the current law is the LOMLOE that was approved in 2019, and that was a law as a result of a broad participatory process and effort that seeks to achieve a better educational performance. The changes that this law introduces in the educational system are being implemented since this January 21 to the end of the school year 23-24. As the remarkable changes that this law introduces in the educational system is to ensure the gender equality, like preventing gender violence, respecting diversity, and ensuring an inclusive and non-sexist education. A competence-based approach that gives schools more freedom to personalize learning based on their students' needs. In this way, the law introduces many changes on curriculum in the next 3 school years. Administration, so the Ministry of Education, and the authorities of the autonomous communities, the departments of education. The Central Education Administration executes the general guidelines of the government education policy and regulates the basic elements or aspects of the systems. And the transferred competencies to the regional education authorities is that they develop the state regulations and have executive and administrative competencies for managing the education systems in their own territory. More or less about 50% of the curriculum is state by the Ministry of Education, 50% from the autonomous communities. As talking about expenditure, in 2021, we talk about 58,993,000,000 euros. This is the total expenditure, like taking into account the general state budget and the regional government expenditures. In 2022, just talking about general state budget, we are talking about 5,000 million euros. This is a big amount compared to the previous year. It's an increase of 2.6%. And as the main figures, we have to remark the 1 million dedicated to the Plan Educa Digital, which is to reduce the digital gap and improve the digital skills, teacher skills, right? And also another remarkable figure is the 775 million euros dedicated to the vocational training. In Spain, in the next year will be a big expenditure in vocational training to modernize this part of the educational system, right? And well, this is a quick overview, and I will stop sharing. And if you have any questions, we can go to the Q&A afterwards. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. So now, Julia, if you can explain us a little bit about education and about the German market. Thank you.
Of course. Hello, everyone. I hope you can hear and see me and everything works well. I'm sorry if I'm sneezing or tossing in between. I'm still having a little bit of a cold, but I think everything will be working out fine. Yeah, I'm working at Eduvation, maybe a similar organization to the Intercluster in Spain. I'm work there for now nearly 2 years. And yeah, we at Eduvation were founded in 2016 with a team, a quite diverse team of different education experts. All of them have worked in the education sector for many, many years. Some come from the publishing company side, some from technical company side like I serve. Some have worked in their own companies, their own startups. There's quite a good mixture of it. And yeah, the education sector in the economy in Germany is quite small. So there are just a few people, let's say, I don't know, around about 100 people who meet again at quite every education event, because they're always the same people. And of course, you get to know each other. And on some evening in 2015, yeah, 10 of our co-founders met and discussed, well, we founded, or we started in the education sector 10 years from now, 15 years from now. And if we have a look at the young people now, or the young companies now, they're still struggling in the same sectors as we did. They still do the same errors and mistakes than we did, and they still have the same questions than we did this years ago. And there's nobody that can help them, that can explain to them, or yeah, to have a look at their business models or their questions. So they decided, if nobody on the governmental political side is doing this, maybe we should do this ourselves, and founded Eduvation. And yeah, this is how we started. We started with simple business consulting. We yeah, are working in this sector up until now. So we have around about 10 active consultants from this different perspectives, helping startups or companies who want to enter the German market with everything from business model to marketing to go-to-market strategies, and yeah, everything that has to do with the business side. We're not doing technical support. We're either doing pedagogical support. We're just focusing on the business of the school sector. Yeah, still one thing that we are doing. Then few years after our founding date, we were asked to organize a startup area on Didakta, which is the biggest educational fair worldwide, held in Germany. And yeah, they asked if we could just try something for startups, because they recognized we are just presenting books and maybe we need something fresh. And we started this in 2018, and it turned out great. It turned out that great that kind of every education event in Germany asked us to do a startup area at their event too. And this is also what we're doing. We're part of course, Didakta, we're part of LearnTech, we're part of Exciting Edu, we're part of some international events also, like Bed Show and London EdTech Week, where we have a small space for startups to present themselves, to present their products as a group, to not leave at an exhibition behind, I don't know, 600 square meters of some publishing companies next to your 2 square meters startup place. So for example, at Didakta, we have 400 square meters, which is quite huge, with 40 up to 50 startups normally. So yeah, it's quite more interesting for the teachers, for the visitors, to come to the startup area, to have a look at new solutions, to innovative ideas. And I'm sure Caro can tell you a little bit more about the experience as a startup. Then we are doing small investments. We don't invest a lot of cash or money, but we can invest like media for equity in consulting or marketing budget, more or less, you can say. And yeah, so it can help smaller startups in the really, really early stage with our knowledge and know-how. And then a quite new arm of our work is the policy level. At the moment, we are working quite close with the Department of North Rhine-Westphalia, where we are even based as a company, and of course with the federal ministries of education and economy, because I think you all know this. Also, Germany struggled a lot during the pandemic in the last 2 years, and even German bureaucracy got the notice that digitalization in schools is not a topic that they've invested enough in the last years or decades. And I think there's a big movement in Germany now. The federal chambers and even the chambers of the departments want to do a lot in the education sector, even for startups. And we are planning on some big support programs now. I think I can tell you a little bit about that in a few minutes. Yeah, here are some of our partners. I think, of course, the ministries, the Didakta and Bündnis für Bildung, which are big groups of educational companies with different expertise, then Bertelsmann Stiftung, and of course the European EdTech Alliance. I'm sure most of you already know the European EdTech Alliance because, of course, Intercluster also is a part of it. There are we also quite engaged. Yeah, let's have a quick look at least at the German educational market. So Germany has about nearly 11 million students, so it's quite a huge market, and with over 30,000 schools, it's even the biggest market in Europe. So just for your information, we have around about 6,000 private schools of these 32,000 schools overall Germany. So it's a huge market. And of course, many companies know that and try to enter the German market. So at the moment, we notice that there are really quite a lot of solutions rushing into the German educational system and not getting very far, because you need to have a lot of knowledge to enter the German market. So even for the Germans who experience the school system themselves, it normally takes years to have your first sold products in schools used by a teacher and paid on a lease that can that the company can afford. So but I'm quite sure Caro also can tell you a little bit more about this. On the expenditure side, of course, Germany increased the amount of money also kind of rushing into this educational market. In 2021, they were more than 160 billions of euros spent in the educational sector. Of course, most in personal expenses, to pay the teachers, to pay the kindergarten teachers and everything. But there's still really a lot of money left to buy, I don't know, books, to buy software, to buy hardware like smartboards and computers. But it's till today a big problem for the schools to use this money, because of course, cliche, there's a lot of bureaucracy. Often the schools, theoretically have a lot of budget, but are not really able to use it because the paperwork costs so much time that it's, on another hand, quite expensive to use these state funding things. And just to have a quick overview on the spendings, and this is an example of 2020 because there were no accurate numbers yet for the last year, but of course most of the money goes to the normal schools and just a little bit to higher ed and daycare. I already told you some of the difficulties in the German market, because yes, it's the biggest, but I think it's also one of the hardest markets in Germany, in Europe. We are also, like I heard from Spain, from Anna a few minutes ago, we are also quite decentral. So the 16 states in Germany have different chambers of education, have different ministries of education, and have their own laws and school systems. So it's totally possible that you have 4 years of elementary, then 6 years of high school, and then 3 years to get your Abitur, which is like a bachillerato. And in North Rhine-Westphalia, for example. And then I think in Bavaria, you have 6 years of elementary, so 2 years more. Then you have, less years of high school. Then there are other systems in Germany with like 3 school systems where you have a Mittelstufe, it's called, and then you're at least, it's possible to switch again the school. So this is often in discussion and a great problem because of course it's hard for the teachers and of course for the students. If they move to another department, they have to adapt to new curricula, they have to adapt to new school system. So maybe they left elementary 2 years ago and then they moved to Bavaria and suddenly they're in elementary again. And that's quite hard, of course, for teachers and for students and for companies who want to sell to schools the same. Then, as I mentioned, there's a lot of bureaucracy. If you want if you have a business to school model, it's quite hard to find out in which department who, for example, needs to sign the contract. This is one of the biggest difficulties because the schools don't know it themselves. So you have to find everything out for them. You have to have a really good research to help the schools fill out everything. And one topic, of course, I think Caro can tell you a lot about this, is the classification of teaching aids, because there are budgets for different kind of products. And for example, for software, like Deutschfuchs is one, it's very, very hard to find the right budget that the schools can use. And then one last word about educational sector, startup, edtech startup sector in Germany. Before COVID, there were less than 1% of investments going to edtech companies. So it was a really, really underrated business sector. But now, as we see with Go Student in the Austrian area, this is, kind of beginning to change. We see that a lot of funds are building up with, the German and often the European edtech sector in the focus. So I think we live in interesting times and there's a lot of movement for us to come in the next month and years. And of course, if you have any questions, I think we will have the big Q&A questions in the end. I'm quite happy to hear from every one of you. And something on our own note, we are planning with the Land of North Rhine-Westphalia and the European edtech Alliance on a quite big event in October. So if you always wanted to visit Germany and if you want to know more about us and the German educational market and sector, please visit us on our event in October. Mark this in your calendar, and then we will send some more information through in the next weeks and months. Thank you.
Thank you, Julia. And now we'll have our first testimony. Caro Aschmeyer, she's the CEO from Deutschfuchs, and she'll give you a little bit more hints about the German market. Thank you, Caro.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Julia, for the insight of the German market. So I think I can directly continue here. So as Julia already said, we have like over 30,000 schools. If we also include all the professional schools, like who teach you how to do your profession later, we're like around 40,000. Yeah, so it's a huge market, but as we heard before, it's pretty difficult to see where we have all those markets because we have 16 federal states. And I don't know exactly how it works in Spanish, but in Germany, it's really, really complicated, as Julia said before, because it's not only that we have the 16 states where they have different terms, for example, like in our case, we develop a learning management system, including teaching material for German as a foreign or second language. In our case, we're, for example, talking to those refugee classes, we can say it like that. So, and in every federal state in Germany, they have a different name. So it's very complicated to address the teachers because in every federal state, it's a bit different. And also, we have different types of school. So this is also different to Spain, for example, because as Julia said, depending on the federal state, it can be like primary school is 4 years or 6 years or anything else. But it can also be that you have to find out first where to focus, because it's not only high school. High school is separated into different schools. So if you have like a very high level of skills, intelligence, however you want to call it, you have different options and different types of school. So it's not that easy to find out where to address and how to address, because some schools, like in German we call it Gymnasium, so they have other needs than other school forms, for example. And so it's always about how can I address to the teachers of this type of school in this federal state, which makes it super, super complicated. So we heard before that sometimes it's also a problem to find out, who pays for what, because sometimes you have to find out first, do we have a license model in some federal states, for example, or in some regions? Schools are not allowed to buy license models, which is a problem when you sell a software in like a software as a service model. And also, it's a problem because you don't know who can pay it. Sometimes the schools are allowed to pay on their own, but sometimes there's someone, it's called in German like Schulträger, they are doing all those organizational stuff for several schools in one region, for example. Sometimes they are allowed to pay. Sometimes you have to pay the regional government, you have to reach the regional government so that they pay for it. And so it's super, super complicated. Of course, the best deal is always to convince the state or a federal state. Then it's amazing if you reach them and they want to pay for all the schools in their federal state. But I don't know many startups in Germany who had success in this, let's say it like that. So normally it's really like going to one school and to the other school, and it takes a lot of time. Sometimes the teachers pay on their own, but this is really rare because of course no one wants to pay on their own for their teaching material, which makes it complicated as well. So in general, what we experienced is like very common mistake is to think like, hey, I have the best solution ever and everyone waited for me. Unfortunately, this is not how it is. So I know lots of other startups thought like this is an idea everyone will love, so great, we will have success. But unfortunately, it's not like this. It's not on, even if you have an amazing product, it's all about the marketing. And even if you convince the teachers, it doesn't mean like you have success in the school, for example. So in general, I would say that, of course, first, you have to speak the language of the teachers, because of course, like always telling them like you're doing it wrong is never a good idea. And so you really have to find the right wording. And because of that, also you can spend lots of money for the wrong advertising. Because if you just like buy an advertising on a web page or whatever, our experience is that most teachers just skip it, so they don't care about, or they even don't read it because they don't look for it. So in our experience, it's the best practice to really reach the teachers in person. For us, it works very, very good, because as soon as we step into the school and show them everything, like, hey, have a look, it works like this and that, it's very easy, and we can adapt it like this to your hardware, then everyone is convinced, and then they find out how to pay it. Yeah, but first of all, and this is for us the best way, convincing a teacher, and if they're happy with it, they're telling it to other teachers as well. Of course, schools communicate, and that works the best, which doesn't mean that it works well, but the best at least. Yeah, so for us, it's really, really hard to reach the schools. Yeah, best way, get a personal recommendation. If you don't have the chance to go to schools directly, for us, the best way so far was to go to trade fairs. So as Julia said before, Education, for example, is organizing always a part of the startup area or even the whole startup area. And so for us, it was definitely the best way to participate in those startup areas, because startup is always like, it attracts many people from different sectors, and they want to know what's going on, and also teachers who are, let's say, the teachers who are interested in using modern solutions, they are coming there definitely. And so this is for us always the best way to find the schools. And on the other hand, it sounds a bit like, yeah, old school, I guess, but sending letters to schools is pretty good, because in Germany, my experience or our experience is teachers are not on Facebook, or at least they're not using it for professional purposes. They're also, yeah, let's say, not using Instagram or anything else, maybe for their hobbies or whatever, but not really for school, most of them at least. Yeah, reaching them the old way with just sending a letter or a postcard or an invitation or whatever always works best for us, because, yeah, let's say it also takes a lot of time, because just sending it to the school, that won't help you. But if you go on the homepage and you find out, so who's the person I have to address, exactly this person and no one else, yeah, then it's good. But as I said before, it takes time, of course. In our case, it's always, we try to find out who is responsible for those refugee classes, for language development, and so on. Yeah, then it works. Sometimes, of course, the principal is also a good idea. Sometimes you have a very modern school and they try to change something, but yeah, they have lots of other stuff to do. That's it. And as I said before, the way over the teacher is always the best, at least in our experience. Yeah, that's it. So regulations, yeah, the GDPR is definitely very important in Germany, because yeah, if your product is not following the GDPR, it can't be used in school. So this is step one. Make sure that everything is fine, and then that they get a contract about everything they need to know about it, because they will ask for it normally. And yeah, so you have to take care about this first. Yeah. So as I said before, like, we can go directly to schools by just writing them a postcard or a letter. Some schools even have the email addresses for every teacher on their webpage. This is also a possibility to just get in contact and tell them, like, okay, we're doing this and that. So I'm just offering, like, hey, we can visit you at your school and just show everything to you, and it's free, and you don't have to pay it after, and you also don't have to buy anything. Just have a look and we show you everything, how you can use it. That works, yeah, many times. So, but first of all, you need a contact, of course. And what we found out is that, yeah, just telling the teachers, like, hey, we're a young startup and we have a good idea, but it's very hard, blah, blah. Lots of teachers who are convinced of our product tell it to everyone. They're really like, yeah, okay, I want to help you, because there are lots of very motivated, innovative teachers who want to really change something. And yeah, they tell others, and that's always the best part, when schools call you and say, like, yeah, school, blah, blah, told us we have to buy it and we want to buy it right now. We don't test it, we're fine. If the schools say so, yeah, it will be amazing. So that's, yeah, the best that can happen, I think. Nevertheless, of course, it's really, yeah, like a puzzle. You always have to find yeah, different parts, and it's not that easy. Finding the correct terms for every federal state and so on. So yeah, I would say, like, for a first step, if you want to have a look or an overview of the German market, the trade fairs and the startup areas are the best way for you to go, because you can exchange with other startups as well. You can have a look what's going on. Yeah, so I recommend you to do this. And yeah, one last question that I had on my list was if we are going, yeah, if we're getting abroad, or yeah, and so on. As I said before, we're producing teaching material for German. This is very yeah, interesting in the German market, of course, like for integration, immigration, but it's also very interesting in other countries. So everywhere where they learn German at school, our material is interesting. And as we, yeah, that was our first time that we went with Eduvation to a trade fair in Frankfurt Book Fair, like 2019, just before COVID. All the big publishers came to us, and everyone was excited, like, hey, can you show us what you're doing, and so on. And from there, we got a very nice cooperation with the Huber Verlag, which is in our field, yeah, the world leading yeah, book publisher. So that helped us a lot to go abroad already, because of course they have all the sales teams in the whole world, which is not possible for a young startup. Yeah, so I think that's it. I mean, if you have questions, just ask me anything, but I think Jody is doing the next part first.
Yes.
Yeah, thanks, Carol.
Thank you, Caro. Jordi, all yours.
Okay, let me share screen.
Jordi Fernandez is the Deputy CEO from Techman Books.
Okay, is everyone seeing PPT? Yes?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, first a little snapshot on who we are. So we were born from a school 10 years ago. We were born as an innovative methodology, but like 100% analogic. Okay, so no edtech, just education publisher. We are K-12, specializing in maths and Spanish. Then in 2015, we start a path to digital, just by having our products in PDFs, so nothing very techy. And then in 2018, we go international. Okay, that's a big, quick snapshot. We are in 6 countries. We have more than 1,000 schools, 500,000 students, and 42,000 teachers. We are just in Spanish-speaking countries, because both our maths and our Spanish, they are in Spanish. So that was like our intuition told us, if you go international, first go to LATAM. And then I got these questions, the same as Caro had, which I will try to answer a little bit. But first, disclaimer. So our experience is mainly with private and semi-private schools. I won't talk that much with public schools. We only work in K-12, so we don't have experience in pre-university. We're not 100% at tech, right? We started as a legacy publisher, and now we're switching to digital. So we are like half at tech and half like traditional publisher. And well, and obviously there's a lot of opinion, and this is based on our experience. Okay, so the first thing I want to explain is how the Spanish market is changing. Anna gave us some numbers on students, but we look at the publisher spending, meaning what's the value of what schools buy for their classrooms, right? meaning Spanish, maths, any platform, any license. This has been going down since 2008, right? Obviously, that was maybe the top year, right, before the crisis, but still has been going down. Students have maintained still because of immigration, and fertility rate has gone down. What does this mean? It means that, well, obviously, publishers shrinking market, increased need for differentiation for private schools, right? Because there's been a shift from private schools to public schools, okay? And there's also an own material creation trend. So with this need of differentiation, schools, private schools are starting to create their own materials, okay? Therefore, well, if you have like a traditional subject like maths, sometimes they say, hey, no, I'm doing my own maths. This is the way I can differentiate from the school next door. Okay. Then, well, I thought we had a complicated market till I heard Carol and her experience in Germany. But we also have this decentralized legislation designed by these 17, they are called comunidades autónomas, but basically they are regions. Okay? We have this common base, but every region has their curriculum and language differences, right? Also, we have 4 languages in Spain, 4 or 5, depending if you count the one from Galicia. But we have Spanish, Catalan, Euskera, and Valencia, which makes any investment in content design exponential, right? Because if you have to go for one level, one subject, then you have to multiply it by 4, depending on what markets you want to target. Okay. Good news is that in 4 regions, you have 62% of the students, right? So most of companies that land in Spain, or the same that are born in Spain, first start focusing in Andalucía, Catalunya, Madrid, and Comunidad Valenciana. Okay, with these 4 communities, if you have Catalan and Spanish, you're right, because Valencian is maybe not that strong for everything. You can like give maths in Spanish in Valencia. And then, well, this has been already said, but 67% of schools, students, sorry, attend public, and 26 go to semi-private. Semi-private is this, I don't know how I want to call them, but it's a kind of school that it's private, but with government aid, as long as they follow some guidelines. And then 7% go to private schools. What are the differences? So we primarily target semi-private and private. Why? Because our product, we are positioned as maths and Spanish specialists, and therefore we like to think we are premium, and our price point also is in the high side, right? So with public, which are the main chunk of schools, usually price is the biggest barrier. Okay, and then you have a good thing, which is horizontal hierarchy. Teachers can decide, right? I heard that in Germany, maybe they want it, but they have to feel a lot of bureaucracy whatsoever. In Spain, usually it's a lot easier in public if they want them and they can pay it, meaning parents agree to pay it, they can contract it in the same moment. And also there's lots of material aid, which sometimes complicates a lot negotiations. There is a thing called política de gratuidad, which is an aid from government to schools in order to buy materials, but with the condition that they have to reuse that material for 4 years. Therefore, if you are like a platform with a subscription model, it's very difficult to fit that into that model. Or if you have materials that you use or you paint, you cannot enter there, right? With semi-private and private, I cluster them in the same group because they are really very similar in terms of when you go to sell to them. Usually they have less problems in talking of money, of purchasing power. This said, the decision making usually comes from the top and processes are longer. And the big thing they are looking for, as I said, on the market is that they need for differentiation, need innovation. So this means that you have to be always reinventing. You don't launch a product and you profit from that product from 4 years. You have every year to be giving, every year, every 2 years, to be giving a lot of new things to the market. It's very demanding. Other particularities, so tenders for public schools, you can go one by one, but it's hard work. Or you can go by a tender. It takes long, needs to be taught separately with each region, called with the Consejería. The authority of the region is called Consejería. And also price is big lever. If you are a traditional publisher, you have to be very big to get their price points. If you are a tech company, a tech, maybe you have some chance there because you can put the price down, as we don't have like a big cost of goods sold, right? And then these are already been said, but language is an important barrier to sell in Catalonia and Euskadi. In Valencia is not that strong, but in Catalonia you have to have materials in Catalan, and in Euskadi, in a lot of schools they demand in Euskera, which is it's a language that it's not Latin, it's a strange language. And then brand is really important. This is something we learned not that long ago. You need to be backed up by specialists or market influencers. The first thing they'll ask is, who are you? How many schools are you working in? Why is this method? Why do I have to believe you, right? So try to enter in Spain without investment in PR or marketing. Well, it will be harder. And knock knock and call is best way to reach schools still. Luckily, we don't have to send letters, otherwise it would be crazy. But yeah, we just call them and try to explain who we are, and then sometimes they let us in. Sometimes they say, I'm not interested. Finally, getting abroad. One thing we've learned is that focus is key, because new markets means exponential work in terms of product adaptation. So Mexico, yes, they talk Spanish, but it's not the same Spanish. It's not the same curriculum. Levels are called different. And also, well, particularly in Mexico, you have Spanish publishers, Mexican publishers, and American publishers. So it's like, that country is like war. So you cannot attack a lot of countries at the same time. And also, one thing we've learned is that if you want to test a market in a fast way, you can partner with someone and leverage the other's capillary network, meaning you can go and cross-sell to their schools, right? So if we do Spanish and maths, we can partner with someone who's doing science and use their schools to try to cross-sell a product, right? It's a fast way, low investment to test a school. Obviously, it comes with its negative side. And then if you sell straight directly to school, if your solution has to be bought by a school, it's always lower. So if your solution is complementary, it's like B2C, like help for a teacher in his day-to-day or whatsoever. Yes, it comes with a big brand investment and maybe like investment in paid media, but you avoid all that, how to say, bureaucracy, right? And a teacher can directly subscribe. Obviously, also the tickets by school are lower, so there are lower quantities. And that would be all. Thanks.
Okay, so thank you everyone for your explanations, and we are a bit out of time, so we will open the Q&A. If anyone wants to ask a question, just feel free.
Hi, I had a question for the German people. I'm CEO of Virus. We've seen a lot of long-term deals in Germany. So probably for us, Germany is a place where we get the longest term deals. Like a lot of institutions are asking for 2 to 3 to 5 year deals. Are we lucky, or is that a common thing happening in Germany? I guess it may be related to that bureaucracy difficulty on closing a deal. Should we expect that in general in Germany? It's something that Spanish companies should expect. And since we are short of time, maybe let me give the second question, and you get me an answer. Like Germany seems to be like 17 states. When it comes to Austria, should we consider Austria like the 18th state? Is it completely different to make business in Austria? How do you see, like for me, from a naive point of view, Austria and Germany are just German-speaking guys, and I don't know why they are different countries. And how do you see, if we go for a German strategy, is Austria like part of the package? Should we do something slightly different for the Austrian people, apart from considering obviously are not Germans, but Austrians? Those are my two questions.
For the second questions, I think, well, of course, it's an own state, but yeah, if you like to focus on every 16 states of Germany and you have the manpower for this, of course, you could address the 17th state of Austria at the same time, because it's not that different to Germany, but because the German states, the 61s, are so diverse. So it's the same amount of more work to do if you go, I don't know, if you enter North Rhine-Westphalia, and I think if you want to go to Bavaria or if you want to go to Austria, it's not that big of a difference. But of course, every state you want to enter is more work to do. What's your opinion, Carol?
Yeah, I agree. Like, we have the same language, yes, but I would definitely avoid to say like it's exactly like in Germany. So you definitely should work on the wording first, because of course in Austria everything is different as well. And so make sure that you don't talk about, like Julia explained before, bachillerato is Abitur in Germany. In Austria it's Matura. So make sure you don't use the wrong words and wrong terms, because they are, let's say, neither Austria nor Switzerland, they want to be like the younger brother of Germany. So so you should definitely treat them as they are, like an own country. So I think it's easier like going from Germany to Austria than maybe from Germany to France or Spain or whatever. But nevertheless, I think you need more or less an own marketing strategy, and of course another wording. And maybe to your first question, if it's like normal to get like a contract for 3 years and so on. Sometimes you're really lucky, because as this whole bureaucracy part is very complicated, lots of schools plan like for several years, and sometimes, as we said before, like there are different pots, like where they get the money from. Sometimes it's really weird in Germany, because sometimes it's like they tell you like you have this amount of money and you have to spend it until the end of this month, otherwise you don't get it. So, and sometimes it's really like when you're lucky and you reach the school at a good point of time, they say like, okay, we still have 20,000 euros and we have to spend them this month. Otherwise, yeah, it doesn't, yeah, it's not possible to get the money anymore. Sometimes they say like, okay, good, now we have the price for your 1 year license, but maybe you can give us an offer for a 3, 5, whatever year license, because yeah, so they have the money and they have to spend it. But nevertheless, in most cases, unfortunately, it's more like, okay, we need the money, we don't have the money, let's have a look where we can get the money. So yeah, we also had lots of schools that said like, okay, we directly buy it for 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, whatever. But yeah, it's not the normal case, let's say it like this.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carol, and thank you, Julia. If anyone has any other questions.
Yes, may I ask a couple of questions?
Yes, Anna.
Thank you. Yes, I would like to ask to Carol and to Julia both questions for both of them. I would like to know what about distributors and resellers in EdTech. How does this work in German? Because sometimes we are not clear how does this work internally. On the other hand, I would like to know how is working the entertainment is working in Germany, because we are seeing that entertainment in the start to work in the different areas around the world, and it works very well. And in terms of education and technology, there are some specific projects that fit very well in this point. So I would like to know more about these three things, about how it's working, the distributors and resellers, which is the principal resellers in German, and which is the how it's working the edutainment in German, and even in Austria, if you have this type of information. Thank you very much in advance.
I think the distributor side is quite rare in Germany. I don't know what your experiences are, Caro, but I like an agency, I don't know any who like really have the easy way, and you call them, say, well, here's my product and sell it, please. There's nothing like I know that in the States, in the USA, it's quite common. We get a lot of questions from companies who ask us if we could provide this distributor service for them, and no, we can't do this. And I don't know any company.
From my perspective, it's very difficult to find it. So for this reason, I asked to you if you know any distributor, reseller in EdTech, because in a Spanish-speaking world, for example, you can find a lot. And in German, I never find any distributor or reseller, and I would like to know if you know any. Okay, it can be a new niche of business in the future. It can be. So it's interesting.
Maybe I can just add, because I agree with Julia, like as we work in other countries as well, and we sell our software there as well, like in Asia, America, and so on. Also in Spain, they have those big distributors, and that's way easier. But in Germany, it just doesn't exist. For us, it's even complicated because like in some regions, like we are in Cologne, for example, and here's I don't want to say company, but they're focusing on business development for the region. Yeah. And even they, when we talk to them, it's like, oh yeah, great, we can help you, of course, and we will develop everything. And so let's see. And they're really, they want to help you. But as soon as you say, yeah, we're selling to schools, they are like, oops, okay, then we have a problem, because we have contacts to many companies, but schools, they're always a bit isolated and no one can really help you. So this is really a huge problem. And so that's why we in the beginning and also now we work with this big publisher because they have other contacts in other countries and so on, of course. And always when we go to a school, the first question they ask is like, from which publisher do you come? So because they don't expect someone who just goes there and sells like different companies' books, for example, because they always ask directly which publisher is it, which book publisher. And So if you have a cooperation as a publisher with a German publisher, it's of course easier. Yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you very much. And in terms of edu entertainment, which is the situation in Germany? Is there something that is growing up very quick there, or is something that is going very slow? In general, focusing B2C business model.
I think gamification is a topic. For the most, we always differ in two different markets, in like the morning market and the afternoon market, if you'd like to translate it, where you have the morning market, which is really K-12 business, selling to schools, to teachers for use in school. And then there's the afternoon market, which is, for example, go student tackling, with tutoring and stuff, everything that that parents buy for their children. And these two markets are totally different. So we always tell our startups, the one that we are talking with, please focus on one of them. You can't do both. It's quite impossible. And I think in the afternoon market, gamification is a thing, but mostly because parents want to seduce their children to use learning apps. And in schools, I think tools like Kahoot or something are in use, but I don't know, one time a month for 10 minutes for 30% of the teachers maybe. So yeah, this gamification thing is still a bit hard, I think. And to be honest, on the edutainment side, which comes from the entertainment side, I'm not the expert. But from my everyday life, I don't have the experience that this is increasing. Or what do you think?
I totally agree that there's a big difference between like K-12 and the private sector, because as soon as you want to sell to parents, for example, they're okay with paying for it. It's very different to go to the school system, because K-12, yeah, let's say I'm always in this teacher bubble because I know many people. I'm a teacher myself, so of course I know how that works, and I always think like, okay, cool, there are so many innovative teachers, but this is like in the bubble of Twitter, Instagram, and so on. As soon as you go to the schools and you find out, wow, they're happy that they can finally go back to just using their books because they don't want to use anything else. Or maybe they're not able to do it, or they don't want to learn something new. That happens a lot, unfortunately. So some teachers even say like, yeah, that's too much gamification, so they should learn something and not only play at school. So
well, but it's sorry to interrupt you, but it's not only like a gamification. I don't want to mix gamification with edu entertainment. No, is the idea, for example, I have seen, for example, Podimo podcasts that they start to work with for adults. And now Podimo is trying, especially, for example, in German, they decide to go to K-12 with the idea to integrate some specific podcasts for students from 5 and 6 years. So they go to the K-12 and they are growing very well in German. So I think that it's like something is changing in the way to consume or to and it's not a gamification, it's a podcast. So I don't want to have this relationship. Is the idea that it's a business because it's growing up and they have created like a special library for students for K-12, focusing in K-12. So it's start to work because I think that is a niche of business. So is the idea how I wanted to know, have more visibility about what is happening internally in German, but obviously not only focusing gamification. Gamification is one thing, is the entertainment, edu entertainment for me is part of this edu entertainment can be gamification, but not at all. So for the result I want to have. But anyway, thank you very much for your insights. I think that is very interesting, especially because I'm very happy with the idea that if there is no does not exist distributors in German, I feel very bad because I didn't find never I can find these distributors. So I am very happy that you say to me that it doesn't exist. No, that is something that I realize that is it's not very difficult, that is impossible to find it. So thank you very much for your support.
So, but just to go back to the edutainment, I think there's a big difference if you start in the private sector, because you're progressing your brand, and then you get money from this, and then you have the capacity to go to the school system. But it's very different when you try to go to the school system directly, because then you first have to earn the money there without having a strong brand. And then it's very, very difficult, because as Julia said before, we don't have lots of investment in the EdTech field, or we didn't have, at least before COVID. And also now it's very different, because in my opinion, it's always like when you try, let's say, when you try to change the school system, when you really want to develop something, when you want to go to the school and bring your innovations there, this is very, very difficult. When you more or less, when you, Julia, wie sagt man?
Don't worry. Don't worry, because I understand what you want to share with us.
when you profit from a bad school system with your company, because you have to you have to fill learning gaps in the afternoon, then it's fine. Then you can earn a lot of money, I think, because then the parents pay for it, and so on. But
I agree.
Yeah, and they're willing to pay because they want their children to have a good education. But when you want to change directly something from the base in the school system, then it's a lot more complicated.
Thank you so much, Carol.
You're welcome. I didn't find this word.
Sometimes it's happened every day. It's my problem every day. So don't worry about it.
Thank you both. I don't know if there's any other questions from the attendees. I just had one question for, I guess for Julia. From your experience working with the startups and in the EdTech ecosystems until now, which do you think are the EdTech solutions more demanded or more successful in the German market nowadays? I mean, are more like educational resources or platforms, or what do you think are the most demanded now? For the school systems, or school systems in one way, and private systems, because or morning and afternoon, as you were saying.
I recently had a talk with some teachers at my former high school, and they told me that what they're needing the most is individual learning, however transformed into an application or something, but from really small solution, I don't know, in math, for example, where the app recognizes, okay, this child has problems with, I don't know, numbers from 100 to 1,000, or with, I don't know, the English words for all the math things, but I think you understand what I mean. That if the app recognizes, okay, this child needs help with, I don't know, XYZ, then it gets more of these tasks. So it's in more training for this child. Same for, I don't know, German, for English, for other languages. So these kind of individual learning are quite important to the teachers right now, because I think, of course, due to COVID, they see every day that their pupils are lacking in some topics and have problems with learning by themselves. So this is definitely something which the teachers and the parents are looking for, as you see with Go Student in the last weeks. Individual tutoring, individual questions, individual problems, individual learning. This is quite important in Germany right now.
Mm-hmm. I definitely agree, because teachers always struggle with the problem that everyone expects them to do individual classes for everyone, but then they have a class of 30 people, and maybe some have some disabilities, others don't speak German at all because they just came to Germany, and it's just not possible for one person. And normally they don't have the, let's say, luxury that they have like one or two co-teachers. So normally there's just one teacher for the whole class. And so what they're trying, of course, is to do individual classes, individual learning process, but that's not possible just for one person. So as soon as you have something that is really working on its own, like yeah, you know what I mean. The teachers just don't have to do anything.
Great.
That's amazing. Like Julia said before, like for mathematics, for example, like better marks in Germany, which can be used by the students on their own. Yeah, that's always the best.
Thank you. Is there any other question? So I think that as we are a bit out of time, we could just leave here if there's no one else with any other question. And just thanks to Julia, Caro, Jordi for your sharing your experiences and the overview of the market, and the other all the attendees for staying here, and hope you get profitable of this session. So see you in the next session or intercluster that you will know soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
So Julia, Carol, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I think that was great. You shared many like particular things of the German market that we really don't know. It's quite hard in this moment to survive in the tech market in Germany. So it's hard work. Yeah. Well, everywhere it's hard work.
Yeah.
Everywhere it's hard
Everywhere in
work.
education, it's hard work at the moment, because all our teachers all over the world are exhausted.
Yeah,
And
but I think in the Spanish market, the public administration is pushing hard for this digital transformation and for the edtech solutions getting into the schools now. So I think in this way it's a bit easier thing here.
Yeah.
So they are quite open.
Yeah, German government is also pushing, but when they push, it always takes half a year. But yeah.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye, Carol.
Bye, Carol.
Bye.
Thank you very much. Okay. So thank you, Julia, and we are in touch.
Both of you for the invitation, and of course we keep in touch.
We keep in touch.
Sure.
Thank you very
Bye,
much.
Julia.
Bye.
Bye.